I'm just so excited to have Dara here. She's been a trainer with us for quite a while and helps with so many of the projects we do here at First Five. And Dara first attended a parent cafe back in 2008, and she's been involved with the Strengthening Families movement ever since. She consults with organizations such as ours, First Five Alameda County, and different systems that wish to authentically engage families and communities. And she's worked with several project launch grantees across the country, assisting them with implementation of the Café approach and accompanying professional development training and technical assistance to enhance engagement, parent-provider relationships. Before consulting in the family strengthening arena, Dara was a sales and marketing professional in human resources and the pharmaceutical industries. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in education and social policy with a concentration in human development from Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. Please welcome Dara. I'm so glad you're here. I will be helping with the chat today as we go on, and I'm going to go ahead and mute myself here, but I'll be available to forward any questions as they come in. Thanks so much.
Beth, thank you very much. Is my sound okay? Can everybody give me a thumbs up if you're on camera, if you can hear me? Okay, so a lot of times I'll ask for like a physical hand up or a thumbs up just so I can continue to be connected with you. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And we're gonna go ahead and pretty much start. I just wanna say welcome. Thank you for being here. I just feel very lucky to be presenting to you. And also, I just feel like I'm sharing a little of what I've learned over the years, just a little bit about myself. I am a parent to 3 sons. I have a 21-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 14-year-old. So I've been in this parenting thing for a while. And so a lot of how I like to go about talking about the protective factors as a framework that we can actually live and actually work with other parents to build is based on a lot of story. So I'll be sharing a little bit about myself and a little bit about my parenting journey, just to kind of solidify a few of the ideas that come through with the protective factors framework. So in the chat, remember, we want this to be interactive. We want to hear from you. Even though you're muted right now, I may ask at some point for you to unmute yourself, raise your hand physically, or use a raise your hand tool to maybe answer a question or give an opinion. But before we start, I'd just like to know, how are you doing today? So if you could go into the chat box right now and just type in one word for how you're doing, that would be great. So I'll give you a little bit of a chance to go ahead and type in your words for how you're doing.
Looks like there's a couple of people having a hard time hearing Dara, so I wonder if it's a microphone thing. Just, yeah.
Are you guys being able, can you hear me now? Just want to make sure. Should I change over to my phone?
Looks good. People are saying, yes, we can hear you. So, yeah.
Okay. Someone has a raised hand. So Beth, you want to read off a few of those, how people are doing today?
Absolutely. There's some people that are frazzled and blessed, worried, overwhelmed, tired, great, another tired. I'm doing fine, good, doing well today, overwhelmed. Let's see, someone had a flustered, fantastic, sleepy. I understand that one. Oh, somebody said ready, exclamation point. I love that. Doing fantastic. So anxious to learn new things from you. That's really great.
Oh.
Yeah, so really a lot of people keeping it really honest about how they're feeling. So
Yeah, and that's really important. And I think everything that I do in this presentation, or either really just this talk with each other among friends or gathering, there every exercise that I do, every question that's asked, we can use these questions in our engagement with the families that we're serving and working with. So I just want to go over a few agreements. Just as in in-person training, we want to make sure this is a safe place for everyone to share what it is they would like to share. So we're just asking that you be able to show up, remove the distractions that Beth and Leah mentioned earlier, that you speak from your own experience as a professional and as a family member, because the way people come to us, they come to us as family members. So remembering that we have multiple roles, listening for heart and meaning. There are no dumb questions or wrong answers. For those of us who maybe like to speak a lot or talk a lot, we're going to ask that we step back a little bit and allow those who may not speak as much or share as much, and provide that room for them to step up. So if you're usually quiet in trainings and don't offer a lot in terms of your opinion and what you're thinking, we're going to ask that you step up a little bit more so we can hear from you. And if you are usually outgoing and talkative in trainings and answering questions, we're going to ask that you step back a little and allow space for others. We have a confidentiality kind of agreement here that everything that we say here will stay here. And we're going to ask that you please keep yourself on mute and also keep space for holding emotion. And I think that we're already doing that, as most people felt very safe expressing their one word for how they're doing so far. So do we all agree to the agreements? If you can use your thumbs up, or if you can put your actual hand up, that would be really great. So I know that there's agreement for the agreements.
Yeah, there's a couple of people commenting on being able to not see the slides so well. I'm wondering, we can see your, there you go. There, you're making it smaller. Thanks, Dara.
Okay, good. I was wondering if you guys could see that. Okay. So this is just a quick caption of each of the protective factors in a really graphic way, and we will go over each one of them. But I just wanted to show you there are 5 protective factors that make up the Strengthening Families Protective Factors framework. And these are the 5 ingredients for a strong, healthy family. If you've ever been in a parent cafe where I led, you may have heard this story before. I know there's a couple of people in here who may have, but I just like to use this story because it really encapsulates and illustrates how this framework all works together. So my mom, her name is Priscilla Holiday. Growing up, she was always in charge of making the rolls for every holiday for our family. So that's Christmas, Easter, all of the traditional holidays, Thanksgiving. She was always in charge of creating this signature dish. And so now I'm in charge, because I'm her daughter, of making this signature dish. So one time for Thanksgiving, we were making the rolls together, and she asked me if I had included the salt. And I really couldn't remember. And if you're like a real baker, you know that you're supposed to put out all your ingredients on your counter or on your table, so you know what you have, and you know once you put it into the larger bowl, everything is accurate and correct. Well, this time I didn't do that. I was just measuring things and throwing it in there as I went. And I really couldn't remember if I had put the salt in. So for any of you who are bakers, you know you can have 6 cups of flour, a cup of sugar, you can have a cup of milk, a half a cup of butter, and there's this little bitty amount of salt. Like in this in these ingredients, it's probably like 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And I really couldn't remember, but I just said yes, 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 it's in there. So, and if you ever bake with yeast, you also know that when the dough rises, that's a major victory. So the dough rose and I just felt like, oh my God, okay, we're good. The dough rose. I didn't kill the yeast. It smells right. It tastes, we'll see how it tastes. So we rolled it out, put it in the oven. It smelled really good. It was really golden brown, like in this picture here. And then I took it out and I tasted it and I realized I didn't put the salt in. And so we had to repurpose those rolls because you can't take that to the family gathering. So these 5 protective factors are the ingredients for a strong, healthy family. So we need every one of them. So if we have these protective factors in a really robust way happening in our families, in our personal families, and with the families that we're serving, the family is free of abuse and neglect. There's optimal child development. Everyone in the family is thriving versus surviving. Children are safe and families are strong. And each protective factor represents one of these ingredients. So if you bake, again, you can have flour, which is really dominates the ingredient for any bread. And you can have a little teeny bit of missing salt and the bread is not right. It's not what we want. It's not what we want to taste. So just like with families, we can have all these protective factors in a robust way, or we can have certain ones that are missing that we need to build. And so we're talking about today, how do we build each of these protective factors in a way where families have what they need? So before I keep going with what each of the protective factors are, I just want to mention that the whole approach for strengthening families is based on looking through parents and looking through families from a different lens. It's focusing on what's strong in the family, what's right, what's going good, instead of only focusing on what's wrong. So if we were in person today, I'd be asking you right now to look around the room, and you can do this in your own home or wherever you are. Look around your surroundings and see and look for everything that's red. Do you have anything in your surroundings that's red, like maybe a blanket or some flowers or a painting? So look around for everything that's red. If you don't have anything that's red, look around for something that's white. Maybe it's your walls or a book or a tablecloth. So look for those 2 colors, red and white. Look around. Now, come back to your screen after you've finished identifying everything around you that's red and white. Now tell me if there was anything in your space that was blue. So if we were together, people are usually like, wait, you didn't tell me to look for that. The purpose of this exercise is that we see what we're looking for. And so when we're working with families, what are we actually looking for? Are we looking for their strengths? And so that is part of the approach of strengthening families, is to intentionally look for strengths that families possess. And sometimes with some families, we might have to look really hard, but there are always strengths. So just a quick review about what a protective factor, what the definition of a protective factor is. They're conditions that, when present, increase the health and well-being of children and families. These attributes serve as buffers, helping parents to find resources, supports, or coping strategies that allow them to parent effectively, even under stress. So in the chat right now, if you could review this definition and pull out a word or a phrase within this definition that speaks to you. So we'll give you maybe 10 or 20 seconds to look over this definition and find a word or a phrase within that really speaks to you.
Someone's saying buffers.
Buffers, thank you.
Increase, helping families, coping strategies, well-being, emotional presence, creating conditions, patience, present.
So
Nice.
whenever I read this definition, the thing that pops out to me most of the time, because it can vary, is the even under stress part. That because I'm a parent of 3, and this is a challenging time for everyone, but just because it's challenging for me as a parent, I still have to cope. I still have to do things for my children, whether I'm under stress or not. So the even under stress always speaks to me like, you have to do all of this parenting. You have to do everything that you have to do, even under stress. So how do we help families and ourselves create these conditions so we can remain healthy, strong for our kids, for ourselves, and the families that we're serving, even though there's a tremendous amount of stress out there, especially now. And those are some of the things that you all referenced in how you're feeling today. So this quote I'd like to use because risk factors are not predictive due to the presence of protective factors. What this means is just because there's a lot of risk in my world does not mean I have to have a poor outcome. Or if my mom or dad had a certain issue with alcoholism or drug abuse or anger or any kind of negative outcome that a parent has, if there are the presence of protective factors mitigates those risks. So if protective factors are present, there's not a straight line from A to Z. There are things that can happen in the life of the child, in the life of the family, to protect children and families from poor outcomes. So these protective factors really do make a difference. What you'll see on this slide or this icon really is that the pluses really can outweigh the minuses. And it's really about how do we build the protective factors and how do we recognize which protective factors we need and then which protective factors we can help families build. Any questions so far, comments, things that you'd like to share?
People are saying, someone said that the day that you are awesome. So that's really awesome.
Thank you. So we're going to keep going. So here are the 5 protective factors, just kind of letting you know what they are. If you go online and do a cursory Google search of the 5 protective factors, you will get so many wonderful images on how to remember the protective factors. Different organizations, agencies, and strengthening families organizations have put their own spin on the protective factors. This is another really great thing about the approach. The great thing is that it is an approach. So wherever you are, in whatever agency or organization you're connected to, you can figure out how you'd like to live the protective factors in your agency. Because we know agency to agency, city to city, school to school, things are different. And so because it's an approach and not a curriculum, you can be flexible in how you need to embed this framework within your agency and in your role. So the first protective factor is parental resilience, to have an array, number 2, of positive social connections. Number 3 is knowledge of parenting and child development. 4 is concrete support in times of need, including access to necessary services such as mental health. And number 5, healthy social and emotional development. And a lot of times we say the social and emotional competence of children, but I like to expand that to be the healthy social and emotional development of people, including adults. So we're going to talk about resilience a little bit. And in the chat, if you could just tell me what you see here and how you think this connects to resilience.
Flexibility. A lot of people saying flexibility, weathering the storm, bending,
Yes.
adapting, strength, being able to bend. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, so on the left, we have like a palm tree that's bending, and bending with the wind perhaps, but comes right back to straight when the wind is over or when the storm subsides. And then we also have a rubber band, which stretches and stretches and stretches, but we know that sometimes palm trees do snap. And we also know that sometimes rubber bands do break. And so during this time of just so much uncertainty, that's why I picked this picture in the middle. Are we bending or are we breaking? And what is resilience about? It's about rebounding. It's about rising above adversity. It's about surviving, springing back and overcoming tough times. Resilience is really about how you recharge, how you take yourself away, how you take care of yourself, and how you're able to show up for the next challenge. So a lot of times people, we say it's about bouncing back, but what do you do, or what are we doing, when the ball comes down and meets the ground right there, what are we doing so we can bounce back up like a tennis ball, like a basketball? What are we doing when we hit and then bounce? What are we doing at those times? So I just would like for you to just kind of continue to think about that. What are you doing to strengthen yourself so you can continue to bounce back? Any answers for that in the chat?
So the question is, what do people do so that they can have the ability to bounce back?
Correct.
Okay.
How are you recharging yourself?
Someone said a pep talk, self-care, walking in nature, breathing, reading, meditation, quiet time, sleeping, alone time and coffee, praying, reflection, reading, tea, eating, daily steps, staying focused.
Yes, and I want to add to that. Even though this is a tough time and it might be harder to sleep, how important it is to sleep and get physical rest. And then how important it is to exercise. And I think some of us are doing that. We may not be able to go to the gym, but we can still get out and take a couple little walks around the block perhaps. But it's been hot, so maybe. We'll see. So here's a great definition that I like to use for resilience. It is the human capacity and ability to face, overcome, be strengthened by, and even transformed by experiences of adversity. And this is from the Skills for Tomorrow website. Reading this definition, in my mind, I just saw like in 6 months or however long it takes, when the pandemic is over, us talking about it when I have like grandkids or something. And I'll say something like, oh my God, in 2020, it was an interesting, crazy time, but we got through it and we learned how to be together again. Like I could just feel myself being a grandma telling my grandkids about what it was like right now. And so we can think about what is the story that we want to tell to people about what happened for us during this time. And how can we frame this time right now for that story so it's true? right? What do we want to say we did? What do we want to say we learned? What do we want to say we overcame? And how were we strengthened? And how were we transformed? And how do we figure out what we really needed? Right? So the actual definition, according to CSSP is the Center for the Study of Social Policy. This is the think tank that developed the protective factors framework, and they published a document a few years ago called Branching Out, Reaching Deeper. And I'll provide some links for Beth and Leah to send out afterwards. But in Branching Out, Reaching Deeper, they define parental resilience as the ability to call forth inner strength to proactively meet personal challenges and those in relation to their child, manage adversities, heal the effects of trauma, and thrive given the unique characteristics and circumstances of their family. So read that for yourself and kind of ingest what that means. So we talked a little bit about what resilience is, but then we talk a little bit about what parental resilience is. And so this is the definition of parental resilience. So look at that definition a little longer, and in the chat, pull out a word or a phrase or a couple of words that speak to you around this definition of parental resilience.
Manage adversity proactively, personal, call forth inner strength. I like that one too. Thrive, inner strength. Brave, heal.
Yes.
Unique. Yeah, great.
Yep, thank you. So I would like to ask Leah to launch the first poll.
Okay, you should be able to see it.
So in this first poll, so we're thinking about your role now, your role and what parental resilience looks like to you. You work with families. What does that look like? And we'll give you a few seconds.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the poll in 5 seconds.
Okay.
Wow, looks like ability to cope with stress is pretty high up there. Given our times, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
It really, really does. Just want to let you guys know that all of these answers are correct. And so, but it shows what's really kind of on our minds right now, which is what Beth alluded to. Should I press stop share results, Leah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and then you can close the.
Okay, great.
There you go.
So thank you for answering. So this is what parental resilience looks like. It looks like parents in real time being able to problem solve, cope with their stress, come up with strategies or follow self-care strategies, that they're able to seek behavior or have help seeking behavior, that they are okay with receiving mental health or substance abuse services as needed. And we know that sometimes this is a journey to getting to this place, but it's what parental resilience looks like, and it's not allowing stress to impact parenting, which is really, really hard. I mean, that's hard. How do you do that? And I know I fail at this some days, especially now. But if we're parents, or even if we're not a parent, we have unlimited, really, we have so much practice that we can do with around all of these protective factors. So if I let stress get to me yesterday, what can I do to not let stress get to me today? So in your role, when you're dealing and service to parents and families, part of our role can be to first show empathy, right? That a lot is going on right now, and that we understand a lot, that it's a lot for us. We expressed that earlier, that we ask strength-based questions to be able to pull out the strengths that parents and families already have. Because a lot of times we show up like everything is wrong, the world is ending. How can we ask questions that honor the resilience that's there? Number 3 is to provide perspective and information. So a lot of times in our zealousness to be really great helpers and providers, we provide a lot of information, but sometimes we don't provide enough perspective and encouragement. We can help people strategize around their issues. We can help coach people, and really, I would like to, maybe I should have put coach and cheerlead, right? But maybe number 6 is more like being a cheerleader and lifting up the successes that parents have, even if they're really small, but acknowledging each small success. So as you look at these 6 areas that we can be working on when we're working with families to provide, which of these is easy for you? Which of these 6 is easy for you? I'm looking for my cord to plug in my computer. So in the chat, let me know which of these 6 is easy for you to do.
Empathy, cheerlead. Lots of people saying empathy. Yeah, you don't go into the helping profession without knowing how to be empathetic. Coach. Yeah, a lot of empathetic people here. Ask questions, strategize. That's great.
So out of this 6, which would you say you need additional tools or additional training or resources for?
Number 3, resources, information, coaching, providing perspective and information, lifting up successes, strength-based questions, asking strength-based questions, strategizing, coaching, perspective and information. Yeah, it's so interesting that people are saying, yeah, that they need help. This is good information for me too, as a trainer, Dara, asking you to come back to provide some training on some of these other specifics around how do you ask strength-based questions and provide perspective. So, yeah.
Right, and I think, I mean, from, if I remember correctly, you have a motivational interviewing.
Yeah, we do. We have one coming up. Mm-hmm.
You have that coming up. So I'm sure there's a place inside of motivational interviewing where asking strength-based questions, that might not be the terminology that's used, but I'm sure if you want to do motivational interviewing, you are asking strength-based questions.
Yes.
And that's one area where additional training is coming up soon.
Exactly.
Exactly. And so how does it feel when this is the approach that we're taking in our role for a family, right? Most of us are empathetic, especially now. It really would be hard not to be. But how do we build up our skills in these other areas so that parents are feeling really taken care of and held through these processes.
Yes.
So for you, I want to see some hands or some hands up. What is that? Control, the little blue hand. How many of you are doing a fantastic job taking care of yourself right now? Put your hand up. So for those of you who are doing a fantastic job, tell in the chat, tell me, what are you doing? What are you doing to take really good care of yourself right now?
Okay, I see a couple of people doing kind of so-so. Hands up, MBSR, so mindfulness-based stress reduction is what somebody's doing.
Wow.
Yeah, daily yoga, journaling, meditation, woohoo! Exercising, eating healthy. All right, walking more, setting limits. Love that one. Workout, cleaning up rooms. Come on over. Hiking, staying dehydrated. That's a good one. Being kind to myself and eating healthy. Awesome, you guys. Walking more, meditation, prayer, reading, eating veggies, signing up for a box for fresh food and veggies. Lots of good answers.
Yeah, this is awesome. So you guys already know what to do to take care of yourself, right? We already know the things to take care of our minds, the things that we need to do to take care of our bodies, the things that we need to do to take care of our emotions. We already know what those are. So how do we translate what we already know and hopefully are practicing and giving an offering to families? So these are just a few suggestions. I'm sure most of you out of the chat box cover every single one that's on here. But how do we actually help the families that we're working with also take care of themselves? And how do we offer the skills that we've been learning over the years as helping professionals? How do we help families do those same things? There are so many free apps and websites and things that can help us let families know that this information is out there and how helpful it would be. A lot of things, breathing exercises, free mindfulness for kids, that really focuses on kids being mindful. Has anyone heard of Mindful Yeti? It is really, it's a kid-based, it's for kids, and they said they can bring their adults along, mindfulness program. And so I'm gonna switch screens really quick, and we're gonna just do a little bit of mindfulness. It's called slow breathing, and it is by this organization called Mind Yeti. So hopefully the screen, everything is working. I've already shared my audio, maybe we'll see, and I'm gonna play it now.
Hello, welcome to Mind Yeti. Today you will try some more slow breathing. You'll begin to notice your breath in your body. It can help you settle the hubbub and find a peaceful place. Before we begin, take a moment to find your Yeti body. Sit comfortably with your back straight and your feet or legs resting on the floor. Feel how the floor or your chair supports you as you sit. Now notice your breath. Try to take a slow breath in and out. If you want, you can close your eyes. Imagine you have a hot bowl of soup in front of you. Slowly take a breath in through your nose and smell the hot soup. Now, slowly breathe the air out through your mouth and blow on the soup to cool it down. Let's try it a few more times. Smell the soup. Blow to cool it down. See if you can focus all of your attention on your breath. If the hub bubbles bubble up, that's all right. It happens to everyone. Just notice it and try to bring your attention back to your slow breathing. Feel your body gently fill up like a balloon when you breathe in. Feel your body empty and get softer as the breath moves out. Take one last slow breath. Let's reflect for a moment. How does your mind feel? How does your body feel? Notice if your mind and body feel a little calmer. Anytime you feel the hubbub bubbling up, just stop and take a few slow breaths. When you are ready, take one more breath and bring your attention back to the room.
So as you're ready, open your eyes, bring your attention back to the room, back to the gathering today. How are you feeling? How are you feeling? So that was literally about 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
People say they're feeling calmer, relaxed.
Yes.
It helped.
It does. And she has a good voice, right? She had a very
Oh.
nice, she had a very nice voice for guided mindful exercise. So the purpose for me playing that, it is designed for children and to bring their parents along. It's free. I'll send a link out for that and other mindfulness-based activities online. So we can be helping ourselves and then helping our own children, but also providing some free tools for parents to help themselves. And I always tell my kids, as long as you have your breath, you can figure out a way to calm down because you can notice your breathing. So now we're going to go into a breakout with our calm self, and we are going to talk about this statement: without being humble. And I really mean that, like without being humble. I want you to brag on yourself, brag on your life, talk about what you love most about yourself and your role. Without being humble, talk about what you love most about yourself and your role. Okay, I love it how when people come back. All right. So I don't know about you. I'm having a really good time and I can't believe 1 hour has already passed.
I know.
is 1 minute past 11. So I want to ask a quick question. If you can go into the chat and type one word for what you love about yourself and one word for what you love about your role, that would be really awesome. So we're not going to do a report out. I know people, I'm probably happy about that, but the report out is just a chat out about what you love about you and your role. So go ahead and type that in the chat for me, so I can get a little bit of what you talked about.
Heart, caring, helping families in need, passion, relationships, giving back, caring, helping families in crisis, providing service, listening, kindness, helping, connecting with children. I'm a caring person and helping people, listening, learning about others, understanding others, being able to sense brightness, bring brightness to families, I think, during this time. That's great.
Yeah, we need that. So how many of you, when I read that question off, were kind of like, what?
Thanks, Cheryl.
What do I love about myself? So I want you to just think about something really quick. So if I had said something like, what do you need to improve about yourself? How quickly would those conversations have gone? Where we would have gone that conversation, way to the left, right? If I had said, what needs to happen to improve your role? All the way, we need more funding, we need more people, we don't have enough time, right? So the energy around asking that kind of question, how much different was that question, right? The energy about asking a positive, affirming question is so much better than asking the other kind of question. So that's an example of a strength-based question, right? And the kind of energy that kind of question provides versus what do you think you need to do to improve yourself, which makes you think of your shortcomings and your weaknesses. And that doesn't a lot of times provide the catalyst and the energy that's needed to make the improvements. So when we can use a strength-based approach and start from a place of positivity, it provides positive energy and a catalyst to go to places that I need to go. All right, so with that, it is 11:04. I'm gonna invite you to mute your camera and take a 5-minute break so you can use the bathroom, you can go get yourself a snack. So I'm gonna, hopefully you guys will all come back and be ready at 11:10, and we'll go through the rest of the protective factors.
Okay.
Welcome back. How are you? Everyone get a little snack? I did. Okay. So, do most people seem back? Let's do a raise your physical hand if you're back.
I'm back.
All right, awesome. So now I'm going to ask Leah to launch the next poll. So the next protective factor we'll be working through is social connections. So just a little question about social connections. What are social connections?
I think the one about relationships that promote trust, belonging, seems to be winning in a way.
It is. Yes, that one won. They're all correct, but it seems like for our group today, this one is basically speaking more or most to our group. It's a multiple choice. Every answer is correct. So we'll kind of work through these things. So healthy, sustained relationships with people, healthy, sustained relationships with institutions. And really what that means is that parents who are parenting or providing care, so caregivers, parents and caregivers, have healthy, sustained relationships with people within institutions that impact their family. So that means I have to have good relationship with my kids' teachers. I have to have good relationship with my kids' coaches. I have to have good, positive relationships with the other adults who are in the lives of my kids. And then the last question, or there's one question there too, around just having acknowledging that some people have a spiritual connection or belief that helps them feel a sense of belonging, and acknowledging that that is important to some people, and being okay with it. Not that you have to be that, but being okay with other people having those connections. So here's a little short video about social connections.
If you talk to someone that has recently moved, started a new job, or retired, and ask them what they miss most about their past situation, one of the most common answers is that they miss the people that were in their life. What that actually means is that they miss the social connections or relationships that they had with those people. Social connections or social interactions with other individuals is crucial to mental health, which in turn is crucial to overall health. The lack of social connections has shown to increase stress hormones, weaken the immune system, and lessen cardiovascular functions. People who are lonely tend to consume more alcohol, exercise less, have less quality sleep, and fatigue easily. Social relationships allow you to share your achievements and have support when times are tough. Imagine achieving a long-term goal you had. What's the first thing you want to do? Tell someone, of course. Or imagine if something terrible happens. Not having someone to lean on and talk to can make that event linger and make you feel even more isolated. Giving support in relationships can actually be more beneficial than receiving support. When someone shares something positive in their life with you, it's a compliment. They wanted you to be a part of their success, and they know that you have a sincere interest in their life. And when someone shares a tragedy in their life, you know they really trust you, and they're looking to you to help them through this difficult time. Now, some social relationships can be bad. A person that is constantly negative and has a poor outlook can bring you down and cause stress, making that relationship toxic. Someone that always talks about themselves and makes all of your interactions about them, well, that's not really a social connection. In that case, you're just an audience member in their one-person show on how wonderful their life is. Poor marital or poor relationship quality can also weaken the immune system and erode physical health. Dealing with stress from a poor relationship can lead to over-consuming food or alcohol, smoking, or taking medications to deal with the stress, which in turn can damage systems in the body. Connections through social media can be beneficial by allowing you to stay in touch with friends and family. However, social media connections are not a good alternative for face-to-face, in-person contact. And too much time spent on social media can lead to more isolation and a greater feeling of loneliness. It's a good practice to use social media in moderation. To be healthy, we need people in our lives. It doesn't need to be 5,000 Facebook friends, and we don't have to have everyone like us. Having strong social relationships with just a few people is fine. A few people that we can share life's good and bad moments with, a few people that we can connect with on a regular basis with no stress and no judgments. A few people who accept us for who we are. Surround yourself with good people, folks. Good people.
Okay, social connections. So the definition, according to CSSP, and you've already seen this in the poll question, positive social connections are healthy, sustained relationships with people, institutions, the community, or a force greater than oneself that promotes a sense of trust, belonging, and that one matters. So right now, what are the challenges of connecting socially? If someone would like to unmute, raise your hand, or physically raise your hand, or use a raise your hand tool and just speak to how social connections are being impacted by what we're experiencing as world citizens, not just Americans. The whole world is going through this.
What was the question? It cut off.
Sure. Who would like to express on how this COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic has impacted the way we're able to connect with people?
I'm Emma Mitchell. I think it has given what to me a greater sense of how changes can cause us to react differently. I think that with the COVID, it just makes you more aware of what's going on and what could be, and life gives us all type of, throws us all different type of things, but we have to learn how to cope and adapt to what's going on and not make it, first of all, stay away from the TV and what people are saying, but just focus on what you need to do for yourself, your family, and friends, and just stay focused on what needs to be done, and make sure we all, you're doing the right thing. We don't have to be perfect, but just do the right thing.
Thank you so much for answering. Anyone else? And in the chat, we have not having the in-person contact or having limited in-person contact outside of your immediate circle or family, not being able to give hugs or get together with family and friends, how important physical and the gifts of hugs in that contact. Well, my middle son has several only friends who are only children, and they're having a really, I would say, probably the toughest times out of his friends that have multiple siblings in the home, and just really finding ways to still be able to connect, even though we have to be physically distant. So in LA County, which is where I live, the public health people, one of the public health people, I don't remember his name, but he said, I'm against the terminology social distancing. He was like, that is not what we need to do. We need to physically distance, but we need to remain socially connected. And so that's the challenge right now. How do we remain socially connected, but physically distant? And that is just like a misnomer. It's just, it's like a duality. How do we do those things? And how do we encourage families to remain connected, even though we have to be physically away from each other? So this slide here is just kind of a few activities that we can do with our families or the people who are in our family, whatever family looks like for you. And these are some of the things that we can work to encourage the families that we're working with to do. So writing a letter. When's the last time somebody on here wrote an actual letter and put it in the mailbox? That might be a way to connect with someone that we haven't connected with. Online right now, because it's pretty much all we have in terms of being able to connect with others if you're not staying outside. Thank you. Attending virtual concerts, streaming worship services online, playing online board games with each other or people outside of your family. There's free art classes out there. There's touring art museums. And sometimes I've noticed even in my own family, we are not even connecting inside of our family. And we're bringing all of our technology and phones and whatever technology we have inside of our house, and we're doing it and we're not spending actual time together. And so I've had to be really intentional about creating time where we're not on the phone, where we're not on the iPad or whatever, and we're not watching TV and doing things together. So creating positive social connections within the family is really important too. So the next protective factor is concrete support in times of need, linking families to services and opportunities. Leah, if you could launch the poll, that would be great. Thanks, Leah. Ooh, so food won. Now, if you guys haven't noticed, there's no wrong answers on any of these polls. It was actually part of the agreements too, right? There's no wrong answers. So I think what's on our minds is just showing up most is food, and how people right now all over, no matter what job you may have had, or things have changed rapidly and drastically for many of the families. Many of the families that we worked with have never had to go outside of their family and friend circles to get what they needed to survive. And as this slide shows, concrete support in times of need is about our basic needs. It's about linking families to services and the opportunities they need to thrive and survive. But it's also families understanding what to do and where to go during times of crisis. So this right now is a prolonged crisis. But when we were not in an actual pandemic, things happen and crises happen to everyone. People die unexpectedly, people get divorced. Where I'm from, the Midwest, we have tornadoes. In California, we have earthquakes. And so if we understand what to do and where to go and how to ask for help, when crisis occurs, it makes our family strong. So linking families to services and opportunities. This is what CSSP writes about that. This is about parents' ability to access concrete supports. So the basic needs and the responding to crisis that address their needs and help to minimize stress. Because we know if parents are under the stress of trying to just feed and house, right? And you're in the shelter learning community, how much stress that creates for the parents and the families and the caregivers. So part of this protective factor is encouraging parents' positive help-seeking behavior. So that would be applauding and affirming that seeking help is positive, the availability and accessibility of resources and services, and that those services be delivered in a high quality manner. These are just some key terms to think about when thinking about this protective factor. So there's formal help that we're giving as service providers, but then there's informal help, and that's the kind of help that's provided by family and friends who are not acting in a professional role. And a lot of times that's where people would like to go first, and it is where they go first. But right now, people who have never accessed formal help before are doing that. So help seeking is actions that are intended to meet my needs in a positive way as a caregiver or a parent. And then self-advocacy is about commuting, conveying, negotiating, and asserting my own interests, needs, and rights as a parent and as it comes to my parenting or caregiving. So these are just some reasons why people do not ask for help. Do you recognize yourself in any of these reasons why you may not ask for help? Just kind of write it in the chat. I should have put numbers. I will for next time. But if you see some of these and say, oh, I could see that, just kind of speak to that in the chat if you'd like to. These are the reasons why people don't ask for help.
I think some people are embarrassed.
Definitely. Or just lack trust.
Yeah.
Another one is like, if I ask for help, are they going to take my kids away?
Right. Someone said pride.
Yep.
And being treated poorly in the past or overwhelmed.
Somebody just said not used to asking for help.
Yeah.
Like, how do you even ask, right? So I have another video I'd like to share about helping, the helping profession, and I'm just gonna launch it.
How many of you think you want to be more vulnerable and dare greatly? How many of you are comfortable asking for help? Yeah, right, good. Yeah. That was awesome, then it sucks. Yeah.
Asking for help from whom?
Right. How many of you had rather give help than ask for help? Okay, so let me just ruin this for you. When you cannot ask for help without self-judgment, you are never really offering help without judgment. So if
Stand up and tell the truth. Okay, let's hear that one again. I gotta write that down.
no,
I hear it better when I write it down.
this one was devastating for me because where are my social workers? Yes. Hello. Okay, so we're professional help givers. But how many of us are good at asking for it? Here's the bottom line. Ready? When you cannot accept and ask for help without self-judgment, then when you offer other people help, you are always doing so with judgment.
Really?
Always. Because you have attached judgment to asking for help. And so one way I got a lot of my worth for a lot of years was helping other people.
Yeah.
But I would never ask for help, which meant every time I was helping you, I was judging you. And when you extract worthiness for helping people, that's judgment. That's judgment. When you don't extract worthiness and you think, I'm just helping you because one day I'm gonna need help, that's connection. That's vulnerability. Yeah.
Well, you teaching tonight, girl. You teaching.
So we are going to go into another breakout room discussion. And this time the rooms will be a little bit larger. We're gonna go in for about, I would say 7 minutes. And I would like you to discuss with each other your thoughts about that video, but also how bad does it have to be for you to ask for help and why? So I'm gonna turn it over to Leah right now to break us out. And if you remain please just click the join button and hopefully everyone will get into a breakout. I see you're all coming back. As you come back, if you could please in the chat, give us a little clue about what you talked about in your breakout groups. How bad does it have to be to get help, ask for help? So just kind of put a little bit of what you talked about in your breakouts in the chat, and then we're gonna move forward with the last 2 protective factors. This is always a very interesting protective factor discussion. Whenever we're in person and do this protective factors, everyone gets quiet.
Well,
It's just
about
hard.
guilt and shame and being judged, some of the things we talked about.
Yep.
Being vulnerable when you're asking, because it can cause some shame for people.
Mhm.
Judgment. And this is a good feeling like others may need help more than us.
Exactly.
Touched on that a little.
Yep. It's like a guilty, like, don't need it as much as someone else might need it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone said sometimes we just need to talk and we don't.
Yeah.
Culture also have a role. Culture also have a role.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, people coming from outside the United States, it's not easy to ask because sometimes you feel ashamed of it. You don't use it.
Yes.
So of course for United States people, it's okay, but those people who are coming from East Africa or whatever Africa is, or what, it might be another continent. The culture has a role, so that it will take time to adjust yourself. So that has a great role also. The culture you are in, that's also has a factor. Thank you very much.
Yes, what culture you're in and asking for help. Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Someone said then you are vulnerable then too if you ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
And aren't we all? Aren't we all vulnerable sometimes, someplace, at some point in our lives? And so we always can empathize with people needing help. But if we don't show help-seeking behaviors ourselves, then how do we help families become more comfortable with the help that they might need?
Sort of like the modeling. Hmm?
Absolutely. And then for our kids, you know, if we are parents or if we're providing care for children who may be our birth children or by marriage or adoption or whatever the family makeup is, I always tell my kids, like, if you didn't get the answer, ask for help. And then sometimes they would look at me like, I don't want to do that. So asking for help starts really young. So if we can model that from a early age, it would be great. It will work better for our kids to be able to ask for help without some of the fear, shame, and judgment that we might be carrying. We're going to keep going. The next protective factor is knowledge of parenting and child development. This is learn to be your child's expert. Being a great parent is part natural and part learned. And I think we have another poll for this one. Leah, if you could launch that poll. Okay, thank you. So 85% went to the first entry, which is correct, and all of the answers are correct for this. And I'm just going to go to the next slide so you can see what I mean. All right, so this is the very meaty definition according to CSSP of knowledge of parenting and child development. Parents and those who work with children can benefit from increasing their knowledge and understanding of A, B, C, D, and E. I'm not going to read all of these because it's actually a lot. I'm just going to leave the slide up here and just talk about what it means to have knowledge of parenting is one part of the protective factor. And then the second part is understanding child development. And then really the third part is how we parent children through their ages and stages, right? So I have a 14-year-old and then I have a 21-year-old. And my 14-year-old really believes that he should be able to do everything the 21-year-old does. And he expresses being oppressed by the fact that he has more rules than the 21-year-old does. But it's not appropriate, right, for a 14-year-old to do what a 21-year-old does. And we know that, right? But he doesn't know that. This goes for every single age and stage. So a lot of times parents may not know all of the ages and the stages that kids go through. They might not know when is it appropriate for a child or a boy to become totally potty trained and not have accidents anymore. Does anyone know the age? Put the age when kids really stop having accidents. What age is that for boys? I'm going to ask for boys because it's really different for girls and boys. Do we know when kids really understand the concept of sharing? And then we might have parents who think that their 1-year-old should be able to share with no problem. Somebody put 25 with no accidents. Yes. It's important for us to know. So 5 is around the age where boys really kind of stop having accidents, right? 5. And then for sharing, it's around like 3 or 4. But a lot of times parents are expecting kids to share way sooner than they're actually able to share. So it's understanding where our kids are in their development and how to impact their development. It's also some of the things that kids might be doing at a certain age or stage might look like disrespect, but it's actually just connected to their behavior and their stage. So I'm gonna go to these cards. I really love them. They're from age 0 to 5, and it talks about parenting from the child's perspective. So what a baby needs. So personifying the baby, saying, mom, dad, caregiver, this is what I need from you. I need you to nurture me. And what does nurturing look like? For a 1-year-old, a 1-year-old is becoming more active. They don't want you to treat them so much like a newborn or like a baby anymore. What does that look like? But we're still trying to protect them and make sure they don't put things in their mouths, or, right? Those are things that parents are trying to protect kids from at this age, but they're also very curious and they're taking in all this information, and the only way they can really do that is through their mouths. So do we explain to parents why children at this age put every single thing in their mouth? It's developmental. For age 2, don't underestimate me. They're realizing things about the world at this age. They love certain words. We have to teach them new words sometimes, but they're asking not to be underestimated. They're not a baby. How do we treat them more like a 2-year-old, more like a little person, and less of a baby? Age 3 is especially, they don't want to sit still. They don't want to take turns or keep quiet. They want to be in motion. They want to be adventurous. They want to be running around, and they need to engage with their whole body. So it's very hard for them. So if you have, I don't know how many of you go to church, but I grew up going to church, and it would be like 2 hours. And then there would be like little kids in there that are like 3 years old, expected to sit down and listen to boring sermons and homilies and stuff for 2 hours. Is that really appropriate? Probably not. Not for a 3-year-old, because he or she wants to engage with their whole body. So let them play. Number 4 is challenge me. These kids they absolutely know, they think they know the world. They're smooth talkers. They're agile. They're looking around. They're observing everything. They want to be challenged, and they're going to ask you a million zillion questions, right? For some parents, that's annoying. Please stop talking. You're talking too much. Are we explaining to parents at this age their child is just completely curious? They really do want to know why everything. They're not doing it just to be annoying. It's a developmental stage. And for number 5, they're confident, they're doers. They're not built for just sitting at the desk or the table. They are growing up, but often we rush the childhood of 5-year-old children because they're getting ready to go to kinder or they're getting ready to go to school. But we have to remember that they're still kids. So asking parents to look at how their children are developing and how development in ages and stages looks to us as adults, and how we parent them or give care to them through those stages and ages. The last protective factor is the social and emotional competence of children. And I have a question for you. I want you to either raise your hand or use the raise your hand feature. The question is, how many of you were allowed to have feelings towards your parents when you were growing up? You were allowed to be like angry at your parents and tell them you were angry. You were allowed to show discontent. You were allowed to say that hurt my feelings. Did any of you get to do that when you were kids? I don't see. No. I heard someone say no. In that, I'm saying never. Not allowed. Nope. Only to be happy or positive. I'm with Leah. No, yeah, I was only with my dad. Somebody said, no, I wouldn't dare, never, no, not allowed. Okay, so a lot of you were raised the way I was. The only real feelings that I was able to show was like contentment and gratefulness, and thank you very much. And if I had any kind of disappointment or anger, certainly out, any disappointment or anything like that, it will always be like a guilt trip for having that kind of feeling. It would be like, you are so ungrateful, or we pay for this for you, and this is how you treat us. It would be this like whole guilt trip around having a feeling, which is completely normal. So this protective factor, which is my favorite one, is about giving our kids, or kids, they don't have to be ours, words to express how they feel. But if you grew up like me, you didn't get a chance to really practice that because your parents didn't allow for that. And so in my home, we're trying to allow for our kids to develop their EQ. And so the EQ is our emotional quotient. It's about how we are with people. It's about how we are expressing our emotions in a positive way. It is how we are around people, the things that we do, if we can understand social cues. And that is a foundation of the IQ. So when we develop our EQ, or help children develop their EQ, or help parents develop their EQ, we're setting a foundation for people to have higher IQs. And if you look at this image, the tip of the iceberg is the IQ. And underneath, so what you cannot see is the EQ, and that is the foundation of IQ. So kids who have a strong, and I could like cross this out and put people with a strong foundation in social emotional competence, are able to do all of these things. How many of us know people, adults, who have trouble with some of these things? I guess we can all think of someone in our lives, or it might even be us, who has problems, not problems, but difficulties sometimes with expressing certain emotions or being with people. So what our role is as professionals and as caregivers and working with parents is to help develop the EQ, or our social and emotional quotient. So one exercise we can do, and I never got this, is I kind of have this emotions chart, and it lists the emotions that people can have. And this really is not an exhaustive chart. This is kind of like just a few emotions that we can have, but it's allowing for people to put a name to their actual emotion. And so if you grew up in a household where you were not allowed to do that, you may not have a large vocabulary for how you feel. You might have a limited vocabulary, like I do. So I've been working with this, and then working with this for my kids. So my 14-year-old used to come home from school super active and hyper, and he would run around the whole house, and everything was wrong. And one day I said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "I'm hungry." And then I said, "Oh my gosh, you're not hungry, you're hangry." And so then I figured out, for this child, when he's hungry, he's not gonna just, I'm teaching him to say, "I'm hungry," instead of running around and acting out of the wild when he's hangry. So giving him language to name what he was, so I wouldn't get a certain behavior, definitely became a cause. Does anyone? Go ahead.
I'm just going to notice the time. We're coming up.
Sure.
Soon. And so I think we'll be going over a little bit, Dara. And if people need to leave, we understand. We will, because we are recording, we will have this recording, but we will be going a little bit over. But if you have to leave, have a meeting, have something, we understand. So I just want to say that.
Sure, and I'm really very, very close to being finished. And so just understanding emotions, giving children the language of emotions, giving children the permission really to have an emotion, and then allowing grace and kindness for them to practice, because they're going to mess up. They're going, just like we do, they're going to misjudge what they can say or how they can act, but they're learning. they're learning how to deal with emotions. And right now, kids definitely need a safe space to be able to express every emotion that we're expressing. So then how do we give permission and how do we talk to them to let them know that however you're feeling is okay, and give them practice. So one of the things that we can do with kids and adults is ask them to practice, what is a happy face? What is a sorry face? What is a jealous face? How does it feel in your body to be sad? How does it feel in your body to be embarrassed? So they start being able to make connections between how they're feeling emotionally, and then how their body is feeling when they have certain emotions. So they will have a greater ability to express themselves as they get older. Kids who are able, and adults who are able to express themselves, are just easier and more pleasant to be around because they can say what they need. So that's it. That's the 5th protective factor, social and emotional competence of children. And if we go way back to the beginning, we see that all of this gives us what we need to have a healthy family. We have all ingredients working together to have optimal child development, families that are thriving instead of surviving. Children are free from abuse and neglect, they're safe, and families are strong. You guys have any questions or anything you'd just like to share as we close?
Yes, feel free to put your questions in the chat box. This has been really great. A lot of, it's just really, every time I hear you talk, Dara, I learn something new. I hear something new. So it's great. And yes, we will be sending links to the videos. We'll get them from Dara and we will send them out to everyone. We are intended. Thank you, everyone.
Is there a certificate that you are going to do that?
Excuse me?
Certificate?
The links for the videos, is that what you asked for?
Yes, some people are asking for those and we will be sending those out for sure.
The certificate, I say. Is there any certificate for that?
When you finish your evaluation, on the thank you page, there's a button where you can get your certificate. But if you have trouble with that, feel free to drop me an email and I'll send it to you.
Sure, thank you very much.
Yes, and the presentation slides will come as well. And this will be recorded and it'll be on our website. We'll put it on our First 5 website so people that maybe couldn't attend today can see it.
No. Thank you.
And I'll put my email here too, if you want to be in touch with me. It's kind of long, I apologize.
Thank you so much, Dara, for being here with us today. We'll look forward in the coming year, and people be sure to complete your evaluation and let us know what other training opportunities you're interested in. So thank you so much.